Yeah,
You know,
for you to say it's
because
gonna.
I bring 3 or 4 books anyways. I won't have enough room for my 3 or 4 books.
Oh,
But you know what we could use, and if we can find one? A small little credenza or bookcase that goes right there.
yeah.
Then we could put our stuff in there.
Or even right.
Or put it in my office. Yeah, we could there, or we could put it, if you want to put it underneath the DS, put it underneath the DS.
Or I want yours to stay, like, because
I always
do
take my
want,
stuff out
I
and
know,
bring it
I
back.
do want this one home, but I just don't want to keep plugging back
I
and forth.
don't blame you. Why don't you just put
What
it
I want.
just put it underneath
Right.
when you're done.
Yeah,
And nobody puts it, because nobody sits, we're socially distanced, so nobody's to the right of me.
okay,
So you're fine there.
all right. Or I'll have you put yours under there.
No, I always just take my stuff to, my policy book, or,
Yeah. So that way, there's one here and one at home. I know you're not driving yours home. I know you're driving yours
Hello. I'm not too bad. How about you? Yeah, I feel like everyone is just
Everybody does.
a little congested, but the weather is just so.
No, the other one. That one just like that one down there.
Testing negative.
It's around that time of year, so.
So nice to actually see the agenda on a big screen. Like,
Thank you.
What it is.
Right, right. You know, it'll be gone within a week or two.
Oh, I hope so. They changed my seat away from you.
where are you?
I don't know.
Oh, you're there. Who's sitting here?
Pam, I
Pam.
think.
Pam.
You're there. Where's? I got mine. I've driven those vans before. Letitia.
Oh,
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the January 5th, 2022 meeting of the Auburn School Committee. Please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, let's start with introductions down here to my right, please.
Dan Poisson, Ward 5.
Brian Belknap, Ward 4.
Aaron Matthew, Ward 3.
Connie Brown, Superintendent.
Pat Gaudier at large.
Pamela Albert at large.
Jason Levesque, Mayor.
Gabriel Desperado, Student Representative.
Mark Conrad, Business Manager.
Sue Doris, Assistant Superintendent.
All right, welcome, everyone. Our student rep has, Abby has an excused absence this evening, and I am not sure where our other two school committee members are this evening. All right, let's start with, I'll entertain a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, please.
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Pat. Take a roll call vote. All those in favor? Thank you. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, let's open it up for public participation. First thing on the agenda this evening. Anyone who would like to come and address the school committee this evening? Right here, please. Thank you. Let us know your name, your address, and your affiliation to the school committee, please, and the school department.
How you doing? I'm
Thank
gonna
you.
make this short because you all know who I am. I've been here before. Am I on video tonight?
It is,
Is it
yes.
running? Because I'm gonna remind you again.
Can you have a seat so the
I
microphone
don't-
can?
I don't feel like standing. I have a stomach issue and it's really.
Okay, just know the microphone probably will not pick up your voice.
I don't need the microphone.
Okay.
My voice is loud enough.
Sure.
You know why I'm here. I know you know. I've been here before, okay? This is over Mass. And I'm gonna tell you something. I called each and every one of you on the school board. I'm not gonna out the person that called me back. One person called me back. Your job is to be the parent's voice. I'm not looking at you personally, only because you're in charge.
That's okay, that's okay.
There's quite a few issues here, okay? The mask, you undermine the parents on the vote. I represent a large number of parents at the school. You got me? The only reason the parents don't come in here is this little man. I have to drag him in here because the inopportune time. You follow me so far? I got a large group of parents that aren't happy with you folks, especially you, because you lied, okay? And I'll out you later, especially what you called me.
Sir, can you address the chair?
Yes,
You're
ma'am.
addressing the chair, thank
Yes,
you.
ma'am.
Yeah,
I just want to say one thing to this gentleman
you
right
need to
here.
do that at maybe at a.
I'm allowed to speak. It's called
Actually, point of
speech.
order, man. According to our
Absolutely,
policy, you
no,
can't
that's
pinpoint or any individual.
Your
member.
charter means nothing to the Constitution. so
Sir,
let's
if you
not
would
go there.
continue, you have
Okay.
about 3 minutes, so
The
you
last
want.
time I was here, I have more than that. I have a learning disability. So if you violate my Maine Disability Act, I will take you to court. I'm gonna let you know right now that I have one of the top-notch lawyers in Augusta, Maine. Are you the superintendent?
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are. Nice to meet you. You can't call me back either, can you?
It's not true. I have called you back.
No, you haven't.
Sir,
You're lying,
what
okay?
points would you like to
Second
make
of
with
all,
us tonight?
Did you get the emails I sent you? Did you get the emails I sent you?
Sir, what points would you like to make this evening so
I'm
that?
gonna make a point on the mask.
Okay.
All the people that I'm representing and my lawyers representing me,
Mm-hmm.
we wanna vote, but we wanna vote by the parents in the school, and we want it done correctly. We don't wanna be undermined anymore by any of you. You have proven to the parents that you are not our voice. 2 years running, you've had masks on our kids with no peer-reviewed science. You brought your next-door neighbor in here, Dr. Elias. I got one thing to tell you. I used to live right next door to Dr. Elias. He is neither a virologist, he's a holistic emergency room doctor only. But you brought him in here on your doing. He spoke for you, and you undermined the parents on the mask issue. So what I'm gonna ask you, what I'm gonna tell you, because we tell you what to do, because you all work for us. And all the parents, I can take the air out of the room with the people I got. You understand me? I can walk all these people in here, and they'll suck the air out of this room. This lady right here, Mrs. Klein, has called the police on me 6 times. I have the report right here. For walking around like that. Understand? Didn't bother nobody. If they wanted to talk to me, that's their choice. All right? She violated my First Amendment right by calling the police on me. I have all 6 reports right here. Read them and weep. I've never broke the law in my life. I'm a good guy. I come from a law enforcement family. I'm prior military, like this one right here. Okay? I don't appreciate you disrespecting me, and you violated my First Amendment rights by not putting me on the video platform. And I believe that was Clarissa. Am I correct? Or was it you?
I don't know what you're referring to.
Everybody in here that was here last time,
I
did
don't,
they not keep me off the video platform? Hand, please.
You were late.
I was 5
Sir,
minutes late. You still can't keep me off the video platform because it's paid for by the taxpayer.
so the meeting had adjourned, the
No,
cameras went
I
off.
stopped the meeting. You were gonna run everybody out here because
Is there any way, is there anything that we
No, you're
can
not gonna
help
stop me from
move?
saying what I have to say. Stop interrupting me.
Okay.
I don't answer to you. You answer to me and all the other parents that are
I'm just trying to
concerned.
have a bit of a civil
Let's do the
conversation
civil.
to figure
Stop
out what we
interrupting
need
me
to
and
do.
let me continue so I can get my son home. A good parent will come in here and defend his kids and all the kids that you're punishing over this corona. You understand me? Parents are asking for a vote. They want mailers sent home with envelopes so they can seal them. Then we're gonna have a vote on masks. That's how the parents want it. I have a top-notch lawyer that will tear you guys a new one. Take a look around the country. 24 states have dropped the National School Board Association because of what you're doing. I'm not the only person approaching school boards. It's happening all over the country because of the way you're treating our kids. And when this lady treats me like that, she should be fired for what she's done. 6 times. You don't think I'm not gonna come in here and complain about it? I've done nothing wrong but apply my First Amendment rights and freedom of speech and protection of our children, which you're not doing. You don't speak for us. You're not doing your jobs, and I'm calling every one of you out. I've already put the retainer down. It cost me quite a bit. The guy works for 15 grand. You see how upset I am now that I gotta lay some money out? And this one disrespects me in public. I have 3 witnesses that said what he called me. This man shouldn't even be sitting here, not to mention that he lied to me.
Madam Chair, point of
Now,
order
there's
on several
There was
topics.
7 to 1 vote.
I mean-
Let
Sir,
me finish. Don't
at this
interrupt me
point,
again.
you are beyond our policy minutes. You are calling people out.
There is
You
no
are-
minutes, again.
Our policy
I'll call you
states
out
3
on the
minutes.
main
Your lawyers can
disability
argue
because I've
that.
already
Your
reminded you.
time during public participation, sir, I'm
You
very
cannot
sorry.
interrupt me according to the Maine Disability Act, okay? I've done my research. The last time I was here was October 6th, okay? Now, we had a 7 to 1 vote. Who voted? Who voted for masks? Exactly what we get right here. Now you go get the police, right? Because you're gonna interrupt a parent, a concerned parent, okay? Only 1 school board member called me back, and I'm not gonna out who it is. Enough respect to call the parent back because he was concerned. How does that make you feel? Does it make you feel like you're doing your job? I don't think so. Now, we can all be civil. It's not real hard, see? And you gotta waste these people's time. You use the government agency to protect yourself.
It's done.
That's
I
wrong
do,
in
but I
itself.
wanted
And that's why I videoed this, so I can present it to the lawyer, okay? In all fairness, all I asked was for a little time. That's it. And you're gonna remove me? You violated the Maine Disability Act, I reminded you of that. I had more to say. So I will turn the video over to the lawyer. Each one of you will have a civil suit. I'll be glad to do that. Have a nice day.
Have a good night,
Yeah,
Mr. Stark.
I'll see you again.
Have a good
Thank
night,
you,
Mr. Stark.
officer. I'm sorry to waste your time very much.
All right, moving on, ladies and gentlemen. We have unless there's anyone else who would like to come speak public participation this evening. Seeing none, let's move on. We have a presentation this evening. Oh, I'm so sorry, sir.
It was hard to understand you.
Sorry, yes, if you'd like to have a seat, sir. Hi, welcome.
How much time do I have?
3 minutes. So our policy states 3 minutes.
Not gonna happen. My name is Mogilano. I'm a resident of Auburn, have been all my life. Homeowner, taxpayer. There was an article in the newspaper a couple weeks ago about how Auburn is having problems with bus drivers. And the problem they're having is more than all the other places. Everybody's having problems with bus drivers. I've been a bus driver 22 years. I know all about it.
Here in this district?
Right, I'm currently employed by Northeast. I drive a school bus for Arcadia in Lewiston. So the article said the problem was the union, that they couldn't hire drivers because of the union. That's fake news. 22 years ago, when I first got my license, I talked to a bus driver in Auburn. The first thing he told me was, we got union. I did not go apply there. Because when there's a union, that tells me two things. The people are not getting paid what they should, or they're not being respected. So there was a problem. So I didn't go to work there. When Northeast Charter came in, the union went away. I went to work for Northeast then, and I drove for Auburn for 3 years. I actually drove for Northeast, not for Auburn. There wasn't any problems, because it was being run through Northeast. There was no problems. I say, there's a couple other issues, but I'll mention that after. Northeast goes away, there was an issue. They were there 3 years, they didn't want to bid again. Hudson comes in, they're there 1 year. They were horrible. Now we've got the union back in. It seems like the same thing is repeating itself. So, are any of you business owners? Can I just show a hand? I know Dan is. Any business owners? Okay. When you own a business and you have an employee who's not doing the job, you get rid of that employee. Big corporations, if they have a CEO and he's not performing, you get rid of that CEO. In sports, if you have a manager and you have a losing team, you get rid of that manager. You have an individual running the school bus department who's not doing the job. Okay?
Sir, I cannot allow you to sit there and speak derogatorily about any of our employees. And I understand your opinion is very important. However, you cannot sit there and have derogatory remarks towards the person running.
Define deter. I'm just saying he's not doing the job. That's my opinion.
Then you have chain of command. Are you an employee of the Auburn School Department at this time?
I am not.
Okay.
So I'm addressing the board and asking, my question is, why haven't there been any changes? Why is the problem continuing?
So I can publicly share with you that we are in negotiations with the bus drivers right now.
I'm telling you, the problem is not the bus drivers.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Your 3 minutes are done, and I appreciate you coming to speak to us this evening. Thank you.
I'll be back.
Thank you very much. All right. Anyone else who would like to come speak public participation this evening? Seeing none, I'm closing public participation. All right, let's move on. State of the schools. Dr. Brown and your administrative team, I believe, has a presentation this evening for us.
Yes, we do. Thank you very much, Chairman Matthew. So beginning in January of 2021, after the board set its goals the previous July, we took an exhaustive look at our data. And I promised each year in January at the beginning, we would have a review or a state of the schools. And each of the principals will get up and speak to the data points that have been collected. They are all consistent between and among the schools to give you, as the school committee and the policymakers, an assessment of how the school department is doing. So, Dr. Doris, if you would cue up the first slide.
Okay.
If you're ready, would you does anyone need a recess after that public participation? Everyone okay? Okay. All right. Okay.
Good. All right.
Okay,
Oh,
let's see if this is working. Yes, it is.
yes.
Okay. So before we get started with the first school, Dr. Brown has already given you a summary of what you're going to hear tonight from the different building administrators. I wanted to go over a few of the terms that you would be hearing. And so we're going to shift to the second half of the slide over there, and here are some acronyms for the assessments that you're going to hear about. You're going to hear about the NWEA, which stands for Northwest Evaluation Association, and this is our state assessment. And this state assessment is adaptive, so it adjusts to the student's achievement level as the student is taking the test. It measures student achievement and growth. This is nationally normed, and we administered this last spring, not for the very first time, but for the first time in a long time, in the spring of 2021, and then we also administered it this fall as our fall screening assessment, and also as part of the state assessment. And then you're also going to hear about the STAR, and the STAR stands for Standardized Test for the Assessment of Reading and Math. And the STAR assessment is our previous screening assessment that we administered in the fall, in the winter, and the spring. And we are no longer administering this assessment, but there will be some results shared tonight from it. And it is very much like the NWEA, except that it is not as lengthy. And we have used this in the past as a universal screening tool. So when we administer this, it allows us to pinpoint our kids that might be struggling, and we can jump in and provide some interventions. So we administered the STAR in the fall, winter, and spring of 18, 19, 19, 20, and 2021, and also in prior years. But you're going to see data tonight from those 3 years. Here are some definitions for some of the terms that you're going to hear tonight. Chronic absenteeism. This is when students are missing 10% or more of the enrolled school days. It does not matter if the days were excused absences or not. It just measures whether or not students are in school. And this is a state measure that we look at, and our goal as a state is to be below 10% with respect to chronic absenteeism. Poverty, this measure in our data tonight represents students who are eligible for free and reduced lunch. Mobility rate is a measure of the students that move in and out of schools during a school year. And the graduation rate is the number of students who graduate in 4 years with a high school diploma. And the last thing that you'll hear a reference to is our Maine educational assessments. We call these the MEAs. And these assessments are administered to students in grades 3 through 8 and 11 in English language arts, math, and science. And there are also some alternative assessments, and our ELL students also take some state assessments. And so those are the terms that you're going to hear, and we can now move on to the schools. So first up is Washburn.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to talk to you about everything that's going on at Washburn. I'm delighted to share that we had pretty great growth over the summer and into the fall. So on our chart, you will see district assessments and state assessments as outlined by Dr. Doris. You can see that there has been a fluctuation of scores. In the fall, this fall, we did the NWEA for the whole school, and we were at 53% for reading and 47% for math. In the next column over, you'll see the state assessment for Washburn. You will see a slight difference in 21-22 across the board. That's because one is focused on 3 through 6, and the district assessment is based on K6. So you'll see there's disparities of that when we all took the NWEA. So absenteeism is slightly high this year, just due to the quarantining and just the difference of going from there. Poverty is a little on the lower side. We've attempted to collect as many free and reduced forms, but it is a little on the lower side. And mobility is 24%. We had about 62 kids either move in or move out in a school year, so that's pretty high for mobility. Teacher mobility, again this year we had no teachers leave, and 2 teachers were added with the ESSER funds, so the COVID money, so that's pretty good that staff are staying at Washburn. And our bright spots are that we have a consistent staff since 2019, since my second year there. We're in year 6 of positive behavior intervention supports. We've done a lot of great work in the classrooms to manage behaviors, to set up protocols. Office referrals are significantly below where they have been in the past, month by month. Kids are in the classroom learning. We've also had a huge increase in our parent communication. Our teachers are constantly reaching out to families using the Remind app. Also, out of the 5 years I've been at Washburn, this is the biggest PTO we've had. So we're pretty proud of the parents stepping up and being part of our community that way.
Thank you, Mr. Bard. That speaks, I think your low numbers in teacher mobility speaks to, as an educator myself, speaks to the culture, the climate, and the leadership going on in that building. So kudos to you,
Thank you.
and all of that. Absolutely. Any questions for Mr. Bard? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Bard.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Sherwood Heights. Mrs. Klein.
Good evening. I'd like to thank the school committee for this opportunity to share Sherwood Heights data and bright spots. Our fall benchmark scores on the NWA reading assessment were a bright spot for Sherwood Heights. After several years with 44 to 45% of students meeting or exceeding expectations in the fall, we saw a significant improvement with 61% of students scoring above the 40th percentile. Math scores also showed a slight improvement with the percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations in the fall moving from 53% to 56%. State level assessment data for the spring 2021 administration and the fall 2021 administration for reading and math was encouraging in the light of challenges that we have faced over the past 2 years. 51% of our 3rd through 6th grade students scored in the average category or above on the spring 2021 NWEA for reading, and 47% scored average or above in math. It is another bright spot that these scores remain stable from spring to fall rather than sliding after a summer away from school. Our chronic absenteeism rate is similar to last year, with 22.8% of our students missing 7 or more days so far this year. That is significantly higher than years prior to 2020 and has definitely been impacted by the number of students out on quarantine this year. The poverty rate at Sherwood Heights has been above 60% for the last 4 years. This year, the rate dropped slightly from just over 67% to 64%. The student mobility rate has decreased over the past 3 years. So far this year, the mobility rate is 23.4%, with 60 students moving in and 23 students moving out. Staff mobility has increased over the past 3 years. Between April and December 2021, 1 teacher retired, 1 teacher transferred to another position within the district, and 7 teachers resigned their positions for a variety of reasons. Our current unfilled positions include 1 regular classroom teacher and 1 special education teacher. To conclude, I'd like to add to the bright spots already mentioned. The Sherwood staff has been amazing about being flexible and supporting each other as we have navigated a year impacted by staffing shortages, substitute shortages, and frequent quarantines. In addition, we've continued to work to improve our culture of literacy. One of the commitments we made as a staff was to teach our programs with fidelity. Teachers have embraced my view and my perspectives and the illustrative math programs to the benefit of student engagement and student learning. Sherwood staff and students continue to be superstars, soaring together to achieve and reach success.
Thank you. Kudos to your staff for this. This is great movement. Any questions for Mrs. Klein? None. All right. Thank you so much.
And now we have East Auburn Community School, Miss McCafferty.
Hello, welcome.
Hello. I want to thank the school board committee for allowing me to share East Auburn Community School data this evening. This is my first year at East Auburn Community School, and prior to this year, I was the instructional coach and a teacher at Walton and at the middle school. So East Auburn is seeing a number of trends going upwards, including a 4-year high in reading, with 75% of students meeting or exceeding grade level benchmarks. This success is attributed to the multi-tiered reading interventions at East Auburn and the district's implementation of My View, My Perspective, and Illustrative Math. For the math state assessment, 70% of students met or exceeded the grade level benchmark, and as a school, we're working to lift those math achievement scores through collaboration with our math coaches and as well as implementing a tiered intervention system for students to fill in those achievement gaps. For absenteeism, East Auburn Community School has seen an increase in student absences to 15% due to COVID-related illnesses. Our poverty rate is at 37%, and our mobility rate is at 5%. This year, one teacher left to go to another school within district, and we have 2 new teachers who have joined us, one for 1st grade and one for 5th. We also have one special education team leader that has joined us at East Auburn, and we also had one transfer from in-district. A bright spot for East Auburn is the strong reading achievement due to the effective literacy interventions and district initiatives. Teachers and staff are dedicated to student success and are resilient in the face of COVID, and together, families and staff have created a collaborative learning environment for all students, and we truly are a community. And though I've only been in this position for a few months, it's been an honor to be an administrator at East Auburn Community School. Thank you.
Any questions? All right, kudos to you and your staff. Well, thank you.
And welcome.
Next up is Park Avenue and Mrs. Maris.
Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to be here this evening to celebrate all of the great things that are happening at Park Avenue Elementary School. To highlight the data for our student achievement in STAR and on the state assessment in 2018 and 19, students were at 49% achievement of meeting or exceeding in reading and 59% in math. And on the state assessment, performed not too far off in reading, but significantly lower in math. In the 2019 and 20 school year, students on the STAR achievement were at 47% proficiency in reading and 61% in math. And of course, we didn't have the state assessment that year. Last fall, students were at 39% in reading and in math, which created great opportunities for digging in and creating growth. And on the state assessment in the spring, students performed at the 49th percentile and the 32nd percentile, respectively, in math. When we started the school year, it's a different kind of year at Park Avenue. We've welcomed a significant number of staff members, which makes it a really exciting time for us. We started right from our first day together, setting goals and talking about maintaining a student-centered perspective and doing what's best for students and meeting their needs academically, socially, and emotionally, and all of the pieces in between. And we started strong with our fall NWEA testing, with 53% of students meeting or exceeding standards in reading and 47% meeting or exceeding in math. That's overall. And for our 3rd through 6th graders, they increased their proficiency and performance in both reading and math at 56% in reading and 42% in math. So there's been a lot of energy around that. We've been working really hard with our RTI and how we're supporting students as we implement the My View and the math curriculum as well. Our absenteeism rate is down this year from where it was last year. However, it's still high, which is obviously reflected from the impact of COVID that we have. The poverty level at Park Avenue has traditionally been over 60%, and there's a decrease this year at 58%, which I don't think is an accurate representation of our population. But with free lunch provided for everybody, I think a lot of families just didn't follow through with that. So I think I would predict that would increase in the future. And the mobility rate is significantly lower this year at only 6% for students coming in and out of the school. The teacher mobility rate in the past has been on average 5 or 6 teachers. And again, this year was a unique opportunity at Park Avenue. When we started school in the fall, we welcomed just about 20 new staff members, including myself, as this is my first year there. So we are riding high on that energy, and that is a strong bright spot to lead in with, is that we have an amazing staff at Park Avenue. They collaborate, they work together, they support one another. Doesn't matter how many absences we have out, the students don't seem to notice, and everybody steps in and is willing to do whatever it takes to get through and do what's best for our kids. We have passionate educators who are committed to supporting our diverse population of students and families. We have a student-centered community focused on the academic success and social and emotional needs of our kids. We are strong collaborators, we are flexible, and we all work together. And it's a wonderful school community. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share.
Thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Maris? Seeing none, kudos to you. I know you, absolutely, 12 brand new staff members, and additional staff members, new programming. So to see, I know there's a smile under that mask of yours, and you exude pride. You exude pride when you talk about that school. So keep going. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Fairview and Mrs. Bodett.
Hello. I don't think I can see that. Thank you for letting me talk a little bit about Fairview. We hit the ground running this year, and if you look at our NWEA data, we started with 73% of our students meeting or exceeding the standard in reading and 70% meeting or exceeding the standard in math. And I really do attribute that to, we had a really rigorous, even though last year was challenging, we had a rigorous hybrid model and remote model. Teachers worked hard, students worked hard, families worked hard, and people really did show up. So it was a lot of work, but I do think that finding the bright spots and everything, we worked hard and it shows. Our MEA scores, and that's again the NWEA, but it's just 3 through 6. We're at 69.75% in reading and then 66.25% in math. So again, we're working really hard, and those were all up from last year, which was encouraging. Our absenteeism, our rate is a little bit higher this year, and unfortunately we were an outbreak status school, and so it did impact. It's hard to say that it didn't impact, so I do believe that impacted that tremendously. Our poverty rate has pretty much is at 34%, which is pretty consistent to where we have been, and our mobility is at about 6%. Again, that's a little bit lower than where we have been in the past. In terms of our staff, we have 4 new teachers. So we had 2 teachers leave the district, 2 teachers leave. One left teaching to become a professional mother for the first time. Can't blame her for that. And one did leave the district. We had some movement within the district. So Mr. Anir took a couple of my staff members, but I'm not bitter or anything.
Yeah, you're not calling them out on
I'm
it
over
or
that.
anything.
And then I did have movement within my school. I had a teacher move from a general ed position to a special ed position at Fairview. So I did hire 4 teachers, and that was exciting. We have some rock stars, and one of those positions was an ESSER position. I am happy to report that at this time, all my positions are filled, as long as Mr. Anir. Our bright spots, honestly, I can't say enough about Fairview School. Staff are engaging, enriching, and supporting students academically, doing whatever it takes to meet their needs. Students are persevering through challenges and obstacles of COVID-19. They, you really think they're happy to be at school, and you know, when they have to quarantine, they have tears because they miss being at school. So they're persevering and they're doing a nice job. And then staff are supporting student well-being and maintaining a strong sense of school community and relationships. We're really working hard with that. We know that, you know, all kids are at different places at different times, depending on what's happening. And so we have been focused on that. So I think everyone at Fairview is doing great work. And, you know, I think overall just really excited to be back at school together.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Mrs. Beaudet? All right.
I just have one clarification. What does ESSR stand for?
The ESSER funds, that was
Yeah.
funding we got from COVID relief.
Okay.
Which allowed us to lower class
I didn't know what
sizes.
the acronym was for.
Sorry.
so-
Oh,
okay.
I don't either. It means money.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mrs. Beaudet? Thank you, Celeste. Kudos to you and your staff as well. Thank you. It means money. Don't you get it? ESSR.
Now we have Walton School and Mr. Davis.
Hello, Mr. Davis.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Again, I know it's a lot to take in on an evening, but this is really important, and I think it's equally, and I know it's equally important for us as administrators to share the work that we're doing and that our teachers are doing. And so I want to start by giving a shout out because I know some are probably watching when they should be enjoying family time. But
Riveting television.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, it's really one of those things where I just want to give a shout out to the staff. And we all do. They're working hard. It's a lot of hard work, but it does not go unnoticed. So very grateful for the people that I work with. We're going to start by looking at our fall assessment data. And you will notice that prior to this year, Walton School has typically started with reading proficiencies somewhere between the range of 34 and 46%. And I am pleased to say that we began this year school-wide at 53, which is a 4-year high for us at Walton. And that's, for us, that's a nice gain. And in math prior to this year, we ranged from 38 to 42%, and this year we began school-wide at 46%. So again, another 4-year high, and although it's still very low and a long ways from what our ultimate goal is, we're moving in the right direction. And it's nice that we're starting above where we ended last year. Our state assessment data also shows growth. We went from 43% in the spring at grades 3 through 6 to 51% in reading in this fall, which that is a big celebration for our school. And from 33 in the spring to 40% in math for grades 3 through 6 at Walton. Again, far from the district goal and proficiencies that we expect, but an affirmation that we are making progress and the things that we're doing are making a difference. So nice kudos to the staff for that. And in fact, I want to just point out that the school board had an impact on this, I truly believe, last year when you approved EdTech 3 positions for learning loss. And we have one of those at Walton who services 32 students a week at grades 3 through 6 currently. That allows our reading recovery teachers in Title I to service over 60 students K2. And so we are looking at all of the students and trying to figure out where the gaps are and to close that gap. Our absenteeism is much higher than we would hope, but I think you're seeing that a trend across the district. 24.7%. Our poverty is increased from the past years to 80%. We feel that's a pretty good picture for us. We're really, our secretary does she would probably go knock on the doors to get those forms back. But no, 80% I think is a pretty accurate read. Our mobility is actually down 8.9%. So we're not seeing as many kids coming and going, although we did get a new student started today, so numbers are changing, but the mobility is down, and that maybe is due to the housing market in New Auburn. I would attribute that to. Our staff, something to note is we have in the past 4 years had some pretty significant turnover in staff, and we do pride ourselves on our culture and climate, and when I dive deeper, a lot of that is we have people who I feel like we're the breeding ground. Mary Elizabeth back here, who's now principal, or we have had people who've taken GT positions or coaching positions in the district. So just a note on that. But one thing that might stick out to you, and you may have a wondering, is you'll notice that 3 staff left this particular past year, and we hired 6 people this year. And that was one of the positions last year we weren't able to fill, so that was a vacant position. And 2 other positions were through ESSER funds, so that we were able to, like everybody else, eliminate the multi-graded classrooms, which I see as having a huge impact on the direction the district is going. And then our bright spots, our achievement. I'll get to the next slide soon. Certainly we're making gains and striving towards improvement. We're moving in the right direction. The commitment we have, our teachers really at Walton are dedicated to the work, really collaborative. Our families, we come together virtually every month. Again, we had a virtual assembly today. So we try to keep that connection, which is super important to us, even though we're not able to do it in person. And then stability, looking at the mobility, we're hoping that we can keep the mobility rate down, and that way we can continue to make the efforts and the improvements with the students that we keep for long term. So that is Walton's report.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Any questions for Mr. Davis? All right, seeing none.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, and your staff.
Next, we have RETC SOS and Mrs. Mitchell.
Oh, I think we're
Sue.
AMS.
Oh, sorry.
We're still AMS.
I got ahead of myself there, I'm sorry. It is Auburn Middle School.
You're probably wondering why no one
Well,
moved.
no, Mrs. Mitchell.
Couldn't see Mr.
No,
Griffin.
it is
out of the
Mr.
corner.
Griffin.
Thank you. I was coming up no matter what, because I like to talk about Auburn Middle School. Again, I'm Bob Griffin, the principal of Auburn Middle School. This is my 4th year here in the district, and this is tough to only have a couple of minutes to talk about our school because I'm proud every single day of what we're doing. I'd like to start with some highlights. First of all, students are back to in-person full-time teaching and learning. That's been fantastic. That's the right thing for our kids, and I'm thrilled with that. Our fall NWEA scores are clearly trending in the right direction. Yet, when I see numbers like 64% in reading and 51% in math, we're not where we need to be. We're, I believe, solidly heading in the right direction. I attribute much of that to the new initiatives in literacy and also numeracy at the middle school. We are seeing some great early success, collecting lots of data, and I'm really thrilled with how that's looking. We have a new parent advisory council at Auburn Middle School. We're going to have our first meeting later this month. A large, wonderful group of parents who want to get together and talk about teaching and learning and our school. We have a high chronically absent number there. You'll see 35%. Certainly, COVID is a large piece of that. We've been in outbreak status, many students sent into quarantine, and something we notice, which I don't believe would be a surprise in thinking of the middle level learner, we don't necessarily have high engagement when students are out of school engaging in remote learning. So that is, we oftentimes, despite all the efforts of the teachers, see students disconnect to some extent when they are there. So that would count a lot toward that. We do have a new half-time position this year, a full-time person shared with the high school that is just supporting our truancy work. That has been a fantastic addition. This person is out visiting families, connecting with parents at their places of work, picking up kids, putting supports in place for families and students. So that has been a great addition. I just wanted to point out a pretty big bump, I believe 19% in our poverty rate this year. I attribute that to a lot of work we put into trying to get families to complete the paperwork at the beginning of the year. Lots and lots of calls, personal calls, emails. We really worked to get that number up there. In conclusion, it's been a tough year for all of us. For example, we currently we have 7 unfilled ed tech positions at Auburn Middle School. That's tough, but as I'm just about at 25 years in education across 5 different districts around the state of Maine, I have never seen the dedication of educators like we have here in Auburn. Every single day with a positive attitude, going far above and beyond. They're filling in for their colleagues. They're helping each other out without exception. I have never seen anything like it. So I wanted to make sure I wrapped up with that because it is it's pretty incredible what we see going on every single day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Griffin. Any questions for Mr. Griffin? All right, thank you. And to you and your staff, Mr. Griffin, thank you. Okay, Dr. Doris.
Okay. And now we have RETC SOS. Mrs. Mitchell.
Hello, good evening. I'm
Wow.
Lila Mitchell. I'm Principal and Program Director at RETC SOS. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to share the N.K. Lewis Center school data. The data that I am sharing with you includes both the RETC and the SOS programs combined. RETC is our regional day treatment program, providing day treatment for Auburn, Lewiston, and RSU 16 students in grades 5 through 12. The SOS program is an extension of Edward Little High School, servicing Auburn students only. In addition, we have tutor students as well. Our NWA scores this fall show that we have our work cut out for us. We're learning a lot about how to better provide individual accommodations when taking these assessments, and also how to use the NWEA diagnostic features to provide specially designed instruction for our students. The graduation rate last year was 67%. This year, the poverty rate is 74%. The mobility rate is 26%. Actually, we want our mobility rate to be high because our primary goal is for our students to work their way back to EL or to their regular public school. As far as staff mobility this year, we hired a new teacher and we lost a teacher, which leaves us with open positions. We have an open teacher position, 3 ed techs, and 1 social worker. The N.K. Lewis Center looks and feels a little different this year as we shifted our focus on social and emotional well-being, restorative practices, and personalizing pathways to graduation. Our greatest bright spot is the strength and perseverance displayed by our staff and students every day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any questions for Mrs. Mitchell? All right, seeing none. Thank you to you and your staff.
Next up, we have Franklin Alternative. Ms. McLeod.
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me this evening to speak to you a little bit about Franklin. I actually started at 7 a.m. this morning at the Rotary Club breakfast talking about Franklin, so it's a full circle kind of day for me today. I didn't go over our test data there. They weren't really that interested. But this year, the theme at Franklin has definitely been some transition and some changes. And one of the first things that I'll highlight on that is that we are changing our assessment strategy. So we are shifting from using the CASAS test that we've used in the past to going into the fold on the NWEA. Part of our motivation for doing that is with the shift to the state using the NWEA testing as the benchmarking test, we didn't want to add additional testing onto our students. So we didn't want to see our 7th, 8th, and 11th graders taking 3 different tests for the year, because that's not best practice, especially for at-risk youth. So right now we're in a period of getting that data compiled for our students, and then also training our faculty in order to interpret that data and then utilize it in a way that we can better meet the needs of our students. So our current testing data is only based on this fall assessment, which was all of our students in grades 7 through 11. And right now we're looking at 50% of our students achieving that standard in reading and language, and 23% in math, which is not a surprise to me. Our students have traditionally struggled with math, given that one of the biggest factors that our students deal with is a lot of transiency, whether that be absenteeism, whether that be moving around from school to school, and math is one of those areas where you need a lot of consistency. So that's an area we've had to remediate a lot. So my math teachers in particular are digging deep into that data to see what it can give us to help better serve our students. So moving on to last year's, our graduation rate for Franklin was at 86%. I always get kind of asked, like, your percentage for graduation is really high, and that's true, because one of the primary factors for a student to be referred to Franklin or a student to choose to attend Franklin is because that's their goal. So to me, the higher that percentage is, the better it's representative that we're getting the right students at the right time. Additionally, our data is a part of Edward Little High School's overall graduation data, just for your knowledge. Our poverty rate came in this year at 74%. Prior to free and reduced or free lunch for all, we were usually more into the high 80s and 90s. So again, I'm not going to reiterate what everyone else is saying, but I'm not sure that that was 100% accurate to our student population. And then our biggest outlier category, our student mobility rate. 82%, which is typical for Franklin. It's exceptionally high because this year we had 19 students transfer out of the program and 39 different students transfer in. We are currently at 96 students for enrollment, which is the highest it's been in my 13 years at Franklin. So it's a hot time to be at Franklin. The other thing, as far as transitions and changes go, we did have 3 staff members leave, 1 retired. One person, Mr. Anier, currently has at the high school. I won't comment on that. I think we've already talked about that. And we've had one person who resigned to take a leadership position out of state. So again, that kind of growth I always support. I want my teachers to be able to go on to bigger and better things. Hate to lose them, but that's the truth. So we had 3 new hires. One of our new hires is currently in the ESSER funds, just for your, again, for your knowledge. The other transition piece, we have been under construction since last April. We're still a little bit under construction. So that certainly has an impact on our overall culture and our building this year. So our students and staff have been great at dealing with the noise and the people in and out and the bathroom open and then closed and then the toilets out and then in and all kinds of crazy stuff. So if there's one thing that Franklin's students and staff are good at, it's kind of dealing with the unusual. So they've done a really good job at that. As far as our bright spots, our students right now, I see this as a really big bright spot for me. We have 49% of our eligible students participating in our work study program, which means that they are actively employed in the Lewiston and Auburn community and earning credit toward their graduation through those work experiences. We have quite a few students enrolled in that program, and we're seeing students, any student basically right now that wants to get employed is finding jobs, and so that's been really good. They haven't felt like they're being edged out of that job market. Right now, again, I talked about this, resiliency. We've had nothing but challenges over the last couple of years, and they've done a great job at rolling with that. I'll echo what some of my colleagues are saying in regard to my staff. We never know from day to day, what we're going to be dealing with as far as coverages and quarantines and all those kinds of things. And there have been days where I've been like, how are we going to cover this? And my staff always just looks at me and says, we'll just make it work. And that's what they always say to me. And that's, it's a testament to how incredible they really are and how much they want our students to be cared for and educated and supported. And then the last thing is that throughout all of these changes, throughout all the quarantines, throughout all the construction and that kind of thing, we still maintain our connection. We're still a tight-knit community. We're still the Franklin family. And so it gets us through. So thank you again for that opportunity.
Thank you. Any questions for Ms. McLeod? All right. Thank you so much. And again, thank you to you and your staff. It takes a lot these days. All right, Mr. Rainier. Come on up here.
Well, good evening. Thank you. I appreciate the time to be able to share some of the important information that's taking place at Edward Little High School. just because I know there's some interested parties. Varsity Hockey won 3-0, just in case you wanted to know that. A couple things in terms of the data that I have before you. Our SAT previously was for high schools. That's our MEA. That's the Maine Educational Assessment. So you can see in 18-19, we're at 45 and 19%. In 19-20, again, that was the year that the pandemic hit and it was suspended. There was no test administered to anybody during that year. Last spring was the first time that we had ever administered the NWEA as our state assessment, and you can see that, and that was just for 11th grade, and we did 72 and 58%. We were only required to do those two pieces, and that was some monumental lifting to try to coordinate getting that and taking kids out of class and not having it be a disruption. So we were able to do that. And the other thing to highlight is that the way we had built our schedule last year, kids did half their schedule in the first half of the year and the second half of their schedule the second half of the year. So some of those kids, when they were taking the assessments in the spring, may have had math or English in the previous semester. So just something to be noteworthy there. And then this year we administered the NWEA to our grades 9 through 11. And part of that administration of the test, we also included the language acquisition piece, which is a little more of the reading in context. And so you can see that we were 61, 67, and 55% there. Eager for us to start unpacking that at our next workshop. For the staff are very eager to understand and how to get the information and then how to translate that into the use of instruction in their classroom. Sliding over to the right, our mobility rate has continued to come down, which reflects that the students, we're seeing less and less students coming and going. Our poverty rate is way down, and that's always been a misnomer for us because we've seen typically that kids coming out of the middle school, that data has been at least 20% higher across the board. And again, I think both of the last 2 years reflect that forms hadn't been turned in. In 18-19, our graduation rate was 76.6. In 19-20, it was 80.1, and last year it was at 72%. We've always shared an incredible partnership and a strong affiliation with our adult ed program. Last year, we had 28 students who transitioned from the day program into the adult ed program, and 26 of them graduated within their 4-year cohort. And the other two, both of them are on track to be able to complete by the end of this semester. So those are some, it jumps out at you, but when you look at the strong partnership that we have with adult ed, it's always been a very viable pathway. We have a strong relationship working with our adult ed staff and identifying the kids for what is the best pathway for them. And each kid, every 2 kids counts as a percentage point, so that's 13% that slid over to the adult ed diploma. And again, we try to find the best pathway that makes sense for students. This past year, even though my colleagues, I never recruited any of their staff.
You want to go on record
Ever.
saying that, right?
I attribute it to the pride in our building that people wanted to join us. Actually, we had 4 staff reductions. We had English and social studies and 2 special ed staff. One of those retired. We also had a retired secretary. We had 4 staff move out of the area, 5 staff move out of the area, 3 completely out of state with their spouses, and 2 took positions in southern Maine. 1 also left us to take an administrative position in another district. Through that, we've hired 7 new teachers, and we've reorganized our guidance department. So now we have a director of guidance that's K-12 that helps oversee and support all of our guidance services throughout the district, a guidance counselor, a social worker, and our career and college counselor is now joined forces on our staff, which has been very positive and helps support kids in their college application process as well as their career selection process for post-secondary plans. So even though we brought in some outstanding educators from the City of Auburn to join our staff. Some of our great highlights, adaptable. We have tried to adapt to everything that's been thrown at us and create some new traditions. We were able to hold Spirit Week, which is always a highlight for all of our students. We had a homecoming dance that was the largest ever. We were able to fulfill a pep rally, which is always a highlight of the year for the students. We ran a full fall sports program. And again, we adapted last year and I think put on quite a memorable graduation event. And we're tracking to be able to do that once again this year. Committed. Our students and staff are extremely committed. We pulled off another community service day this fall. Typically, we only hold one a year, and this year we're holding two. Staff coverage for absences has been phenomenal. They have all stepped up, whether they are the ed tech staff or the teaching staff. They have joined forces because they all know that we're all in this together, and we want to be able to make sure that we have the coverage so we can get the instruction to the kids to the very best that we can. We've been working on restorative practices, and we've been trying to help support staff and students with mental health supports throughout the school year. Perseverance. We've been managing a construction project, and it changes every single day. If you've been up lately, the forest that surrounds Forest Avenue is gone. We adapt to the student needs by differentiation for their return from school from last year, from quarantines, whatever it may be, the staff are stepping up. What is it that we need to do to catch kids where they are and then move them through the curriculum and move them on to the next level and move them on to their post-secondary goals? And my last slide is something that I just wanted to make sure that was on your radar. You hear a lot about our accreditation. Our accreditation is NEASC. It's a New England affiliation. We have a 10-year accreditation period. It's from 2014 to 2024. After a site visit, which occurred in 2014, a report is issued, identifies status and areas to address. In 2014, we had approximately 8 areas to address. It's pretty common after a site visit that the accreditation team will issue a report and say, these are the areas that we want more evidence on, these are the areas we want you to address. We provide a 2-year and a 5-year report on progress evidence of identified areas. These reports are reviewed and updates of areas to address are provided. So we submit a report. If there were 8 on them, they submit it back and say they take the ones off that they are satisfied with, leave ones on that they want you to continue to provide evidence or continue to work toward. Each report has been approved and the identified areas met are removed from the list. Our last report identified our staff as probationary. That's where it came from, our status as probationary. That's where we were in 2014. That's where we were in the accreditation cycle, the 10-year period prior to that. While the Commission acknowledges that progress has been made as noted below until all cited concerns have been satisfactorily resolved, the school will remain on probation for the standards for accreditation on curriculum and community resources for learning. And the last item that they have asked for us to address is to continue to provide an update on the status of the school construction project. A special progress report is going to be due this June, and that's the only item that they've asked us to address, and those are the items that they ask us to change your accreditation status.
And we can't build the school fast enough then here.
And they are working really fast.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Anier? All right,
I have one question. I'm curious about absenteeism rates at Yale.
I'll have to pull that one up. I have the category of graduation, they have the category of absenteeism.
Okay.
I'd have to go back and compare this year to 3 years ago, but we absolutely can do that. I'd be happy to do that. We've been trending better attendance this year than we were last year, but then there's a dip that in comparison to 3 years ago, so I can absolutely pull that up. And in the recent DOE guidelines, we now have to cull out to identify if we're on outbreak status depending on students who are absent due to symptoms. And so we have a lot of categories of, are you quarantined as an excused absence or an unexcused absence? And so we tend to stay focused on the unexcused ones, but I absolutely can get that information.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, thank you, Mr. Anier.
And for the record, I didn't steal any of their staff.
Oh, that's all right, that's all right. Thank you.
Okay, we have a couple more slides. We're going to close out with a little bit of information that captures the entire district. And what you're seeing right here is the fall district assessment results for the last 3 years. There's a table on reading, and there's also a table on math. So in the reading table, you're seeing proficiency percentages there of 49%, 47%, and then this year with the NWEA at 62%. And then for math, 64%. Then we saw a significant drop, 49% in the 2021 school year, and now we're climbing back up at 56%.
Trending in the right direction.
Yeah, trending in the right direction. And then this last slide here captures some information about our two main initiatives right now. We are really focusing in on literacy and math, and you heard some snippets of this during the presentations tonight. In literacy, we have a new program that we are implementing, My View and My Perspective. And with that program, we are providing job-embedded professional development and support with our 4 literacy coaches and a 5th one that we hope to be hiring soon. And our coaches are in the schools every day. They are doing coaching cycles. They are meeting with teachers in PLCs. They are providing building level PD and also district level professional development. And they have also been meeting with our teachers across the district in grade level meetings. So they've been very busy in supporting the work this year. And we also have a literacy leadership team that we have formed this year, and that group meets once a month to support the literacy initiatives. And then in math, we do have a new math program that we're implementing this year. It's called Illustrative Math, and that's in grades 6 through 8. And once again, we're very fortunate to have our 2 math coaches providing job-embedded support out there in our buildings. And we have formed a math leadership team, and that team right now is working on reviewing the math curriculum. And we are right now reviewing data and instructional practices. We actually have finished that part of the work, and we're going to begin a review of the current programs and materials that we use in Auburn. And when this process is over, we'll have some recommendations. We don't know yet if we're going to look at a new program. I anticipate that we might, but we should have our final recommendations to the school committee in probably April or May of this year.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Davis.
You're welcome.
Does that conclude?
And that concludes our presentation tonight.
Yes. Thank you all. Thank you all to all administrators, your staff, Dr. Brown, central office. This is not without tremendous work, all for the sake of our kiddos and our community. So thank you for all of your efforts. And my words are not hollow. I truly mean thank you from the bottom of our hearts. So we appreciate all you're doing out there every day. Do you have a question? Yes.
Just some technical questions. This is great, by the way. The data is unbelievable, and it's extremely well appreciated. 2 things. First, is it possible to get a percentage on staff attrition so we actually know what the attrition rate is on an annualized basis? If not by school, by district?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. And then when we do these, again, maybe a census count or a student count by school too would be helpful?
Sure.
Just to help orientate myself, because I'm not sure the exact school populations. And then the third thing is, I hear a lot of talk about poverty, as well as it should be. It's a huge focus. But I'm also wondering, I just need to blend some numbers here, because what we're seeing from census data information in 2020 is a citywide poverty rate of 11.3% with a median income of $49,000. So I'm wondering if the definitions used at the public school system are different than the definitions that we might be using at the state or the federal level. So how do we define poverty, I think, is going to be important. Not saying one is better than the other. They all have different meanings. But in order to put this into context and then draw some comparisons which are starting to become clear, that are probably crystal clear in your minds, which is a comparison between mobility, poverty, performance. But one thing that stands out, Mr. Davis, I think, has illustrated this one wonderfully, that poverty is not an absolute indicator of future performance. It could be a guide, but it's not an absolute, this is where your track is and you can't leave that track. So you can break that cycle of poverty through whatever magic you might be doing at your schools. So that's great. I just want a little bit more context if I could.
Sure, we'll
Okay.
work on
Great,
providing
thank
that for you.
Sure, absolutely.
This is for Sue. What's the percentage of the students overall who took the test? I know we've always tried for more than 95%. I'm wondering if the COVID made that more difficult to get all the kids in to the testing.
Last spring, our percentages were down a little bit, but above 95%.
So you stayed?
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? All right, seeing none, let's moving on. School committee student rep report. Gabriel has something he'd like to share with us this evening.
Edward Little, January's been a pretty busy month. I'll name a few things, I'll keep it brief, but for example, Student Council is hosting the Midnight Marathon on the 17th. Midnight Marathon is run by the Student Leadership Council there. We go watch, I think, 5 basketball games, I believe, and then it goes from 8 to 10. We go to the local roller-drome over there, and then we go to the bowling alley in Lewiston. I forgot the name. I think it's Just in Time Bowling. We're planning that 17th. There's a January committee planning a 3-on-3 basketball tournament on the 29th. Hopefully, we're still getting times for that as well. And we're planning to do Winter Carnival. Our goal for Student Council is to raise school spirit and bring people together more. We found that having a November food drive brought a lot of people together, especially having competitions and prizes. Last classes won donuts for breakfast before break. So people like that, and we've heard good numbers from it as well, like, what is it called? Student participation in classes. Some guidance counselors told us that, so we want to focus on that. School-wide midterms are this month as well, from the 19th to the 24th. Our schedule has changed a little bit. We focus on 1M and 2M on certain days, and 3W and 4W on other days. Again, this is through the 19th to the 24th. I believe we can leave early on some days as well. I don't know if that's important, but I feel like you guys should know.
Yes, yes, you can leave early on some days.
Executive board for juniors, personally, we're still working on prom themes. We have our venue and our DJ down, but hopefully that'll be done soon and get some decorations up. Sports-wise, I didn't get any information on the indoor track and field nor the hockey team, but I do know that the basketball game, the previous boys basketball game, they won 7-2, and they have an overall win rate of a little less than 80%. So we won states last year, so we're pretty good. Swim team, 3 people broke new EL swim records this year alone. 2 of them being Andrew, and one of them, I believe, being Mrs. Raymond's kid.
So Andrew Casares is our swimmer who's breaking records right now.
Yes, he won.
I
yeah.
don't know who the other person
Isaac Raymond. I mean, that's his
there
name.
we go.
He's in a math class.
There you go.
Pool testing is also good. So I've heard from nurses, they really like it a lot. So I thank you guys for passing that. It's worked well. We've had sadly positive cases, but we've caught them early. And then for next school board meeting, I'm working with Mrs. Gagne for reporting a donation towards from a local salon towards one of the elementary schools. I'll try to get that out by next meeting. So
Great, thank
that's
you.
my report.
I can update you on the hockey team. They won 3-0 tonight. They are undefeated. I believe 7-0 so far, 6-0. What is it? 6-0, 7-0? I don't know.
Sounds right.
I thought you were a better hockey mom than I was then. Okay, so thank you so much for the updates. We appreciate it. All right, Dr. Brown, Superintendent's report.
Thank you very much, Chairperson Matthew. The school committee may recall at the beginning of the year I established goals, and one of those was to step out of my comfort zone and do some video infomercials. So we shared one with you at the beginning of the year, and we have another one for you this evening. So Sue, if you would cue it up, this is our latest attempt at video infomercials. Hi everybody, my name is Connie Brown. I am the superintendent for the Auburn School Department, and with me today is my good friend Chuck. We're out here at Industry Ave, which is where we keep our buses, and Chuck maintains all of our fleet. We have amazing drivers, and we appreciate the public's patience as we try to work through another challenging winter season. It is winter in Maine, and if you're from Maine like I am, you understand that this season will have snow, rain, freezing rain, and lots of unpredictable weather for our buses and drivers to get through. We also ask that you make sure that you send your kids to school properly dressed. That includes, if they're little, boots, snow pants, hats, and mittens so that they can go out and play. And if they're big, we ask that you have them wear jackets and boots and things that will work in the inclement weather. We have a number of kids that have to walk to school, and we'd like them to walk safely and use the sidewalks as much as possible. We also are going to show you, as part of our video, some of the challenging bus routes that we have in the community and how wonderful our drivers are as they navigate these tricky roads. There are a lot of hills, there's Goff Hill, there's some others in New Auburn, and we want to show you how our drivers safely transport all of our kids to school. A reminder that we are into winter weather. If we have to call school, we will have a robocall sent out as part of the notice. Thanks again for your support of the Auburn Public Schools. So it's a little on the kitschy side, but that's okay. So again, it's our attempt to get out to families. That'll go on the website that it's winter time. Watch for robocalls. There's a rumor it might snow, Gabe, on Friday, so we're watching that. We have had one snow day so far. And just as a reminder, the first 3 days for inclement weather are traditional snow days. And after that, they will be remote days. So we'll try to keep that, in the front of everyone's mind. So if we do have a snow day, maybe this week, it will be a traditional snow day.
Thank you.
So
Thank you for highlighting what I think are sometimes our unsung heroes, our unseen. The big yellow bus pulls up and off my child goes, but there is a human being driving that big yellow bus. So thank you for highlighting.
Oh, you're welcome. So the second thing is budget update. We met with the council December 20. We had a very good conversation to initiate budget for the 22-23 school year. I would like to thank the mayor for helping to facilitate that. So thank you very much. It was a good dialogue. Mr. Conrad and I are deep into meetings with the administrators. All their budgets have been submitted. Where's Mr. Griffin? Mr. Griffin was the very first one up today, up to bat. Did an excellent job advocating for the needs of his school, as I know they all will. The budget will come to you the first Wednesday in March. I think it's the 2nd, and that's when you'll get your first look at it. It will have all of the same components it had before, including a budget memo, budget message. It will have the same setup as we did before by cost center article. Those words are interchangeable. It will have the school's enrollment information, and so Mayor Levesque, if we didn't get it to you tonight, it will be in your budget book. We'll have that information too, along with staff ratios and counts and a lot of things. So the budget is well underway. We should know what our general purpose aid numbers are probably the end of January. That's typically when we get them. For those of us who have been around a long time, I've seen that come as late as April, but lately the department's been pretty good about getting those out by the end of January. The next piece I want to get on your horizon is one of the things I've heard a lot about since I came to Auburn is transparency and ensuring that there is a lot of accountability, especially around fiscal responsibility for the school department. And Mr. Conrad suggested, and I fully endorse, that he is accustomed to writing a financial report for the school committee once a month as part of the finance review. And so that will be a written report. It will come to you in your packet. It will detail the school department's finances. Mark will speak to that as part of his comments. And we think that's another vehicle to help the school committee retain its, what I think is a very credible budget position. Would you like to speak any more to that, Mr. Conrad?
Just a couple of quick items. I think that process is really crucial for meeting our fiduciary responsibilities. We have almost $48 million in taxpayer dollars that we're managing every year. And so what our auditors look for is a robust series of financial controls to assure that we're expending those dollars in the manner they're intended. And an important part of that process is truly the board oversight that comes with the financial report that's part of the finance committee meetings and reported out to the school committee. I think the other piece that's new for us is as we move forward into the construction budget, we're going to begin providing financial reports on where the construction budget is going. We know we may have some challenges there over time, and we want to make sure people are well versed in where we sit with that. So, thank you.
Just to add a word about the construction budget, we did start with the budget, the building committee bringing the information, but the construction report that you will get is the one that we submit to the state. And so you will have a sense of, or an accounting of how those dollars are being spent and where the contingents, if we've had if we've had to use any contingency dollars and where they're going. So we'll start that in February, if that's all right with everyone. It seems like a good step to ensuring that the public has good, transparent information from the board. So last on my list is an update on the CDC standard operating procedures. Yesterday, I sent to the staff, families, and students here in the school department a letter and briefly summarized what was in your packet from Friday, which is what I saw as the substantive changes from the new standard operating procedure, or the SOP. I'll just hit on those highs very quickly. If you're outdoors, you're on a bus, you are no longer considered a close contact, and we won't be tracing those. The definition of an outbreak has now gone from 3 cases that are epidemiologically linked, did I get that, Ms. Albert, correctly, to 15% of the student population. The 15% has actually been around for a long time. That's in statute. If you have 15% of your students who are ill, then you do trip a wire regarding whether the CDC is interested in if you have flu or something else going on in your building. The district no longer must submit the names of all close contacts to the state of Maine CDC. We had been doing that. We won't be doing that anymore. When a student is a close contact, the district can now simply notify parents electronically as opposed to calling people individually. So we can text, we can email, which will help save time. The quarantine period is now 5 days opposed to 10, so that's basically been cut in half. We have a mandatory masking policy in place, and any staff or student who is considered a close contact will not have to be quarantined from school, even if this exposure took place at lunch or at an extracurricular activity. The only people who will have to be kept out of school are those who test positive for COVID-19. We have tried test to stay. We did that over the break with some of our athletes, and it worked. The test to stay process means that you administer a COVID test within 7 days twice. It's called serial testing, and that way, if they don't test positive, then they're able to stay in school. One of the challenges with that is maintaining an adequate test supply, which is why we just sort of stuck our toe in the water with that, because we, right now, would not have sufficient testing to be able to do that district-wide. But we're looking at that as an option. We will accept results from an at-home test when we can verify the collection date and the patient. The Maine CDC does not investigate or accept reports of positive tests, so these will not be reflected on our district counts. And that came from the MDOE and their liaison, that we can consider them positive. We don't trace them. We don't consider them on our district dashboard. The CDC doesn't count them, but we can use at-home tests, which I think will help our families a lot. And in conclusion, just to thank everybody for their flexibility and patience. This has been an enormous impact on the school department, and we're now almost into 2 years of dealing with just not a citywide, it's a nationwide, worldwide pandemic. I never thought as a superintendent I'd be dealing with these kind of conditions. I've been at this for 25 years, and this is a first. Our students have shown tremendous resilience and fortitude. And when I listen to the administrators talk about our achievements, I mean, you have to step back and realize what you've done in a remarkably difficult period. These are not ordinary times. These are extraordinary times. And when you look at the district results and you have a 15% increase in your K-6 reading levels, that's pretty remarkable. You don't see that in a lot of places. You don't see that in many places at all. And when Dr. Doris and I talk about a program, whether it's Illustrative Math or the literacy program, it's a good, robust program. That's why we picked it. But it takes people and it takes trained, successful professionals to move that forward who have been well supported. And so you're seeing the results of that. I'd be happy to answer any questions about the SOP at this time. Brian?
Yeah, one of the questions I got right out of the gate when the SOPs came out was around the at-home tests. I mean, I'm glad we're accepting those. The concerns that I've heard from parents are, how do we validate it? How do we verify that me as the patient it was collected on this date. I've taken 2 at-home tests, and there's nothing that you can categorize it as when I took it. So how are we validating that, those tests were actually taken by, Pam actually took that test on this date and was confirmed? Again, I think it's great that we're accepting them, but the concerns were, how do I prove it was my child?
Sue, do you want to speak to that before I do?
Yeah, we're expecting people to be honest with us about the results. And the other thing about the home test is, as Dr. Brown explained, is that test result is going to impact just that student or that staff member, and it will not result in the identification of close contacts and contact tracing.
So we, and just to underscore what Dr. Dora said, we rely on people to be forthcoming with us. And we've had some people take pictures of their results and send them in. We really want to keep kids in school. And so we're hoping with all of the other mitigation strategies that this is one more tool to help facilitate that.
Pam, can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, so just 2 things. So you're talking about accepting positive test results, correct? So if a student tests positive at home or a staff person's test positive with an at-home test, you're accepting that result.
Yes.
We're not talking about necessarily negative at-home tests to return to school. I will say that with the Binax Now at-home testing, there's a semi-quasi way to verify it through the Navica app. And so when you're actually taking the test, you actually take a photo of the QR code on the box, and then you also take a picture of the QR code on the test itself, which then says that that test has been used. You can create a profile. It tracks all of your test results in the app for that individual person, so that you can pull up those test results and it will say, Pamela Albert negative on such and such a date. And that's linked to that specific QR code on the actual test itself. Yeah.
Yeah, traveling through
it's
Europe.
Very helpful.
Traveling through Europe, it's accepted by the TSA, as well as European Union. So they actually video prompt and monitor a live person as you apply and watch your results for 15
That's a
minutes.
slightly different test. Yeah,
the
so
Navica, on the
yeah,
Binax.
they're both Binax Now tests, but there's one for international travel. The ones you can buy at Walgreens here are not that test.
Maybe that's why it costs more money.
Right. Any other questions for Dr. Brown?
Oh.
Ann?
Oh, no, go ahead. I can speak after.
So one question I had, because we were asked this, if a student now, of course, we're entering the flu season, so and the more I read about this, if someone is sick, the first thing to do is to take a COVID test. If it's not COVID, then to assume it's either a cold or flu. If someone sends a child who is fully vaccinated with a cold, is there a way to have them test to see if they do have COVID, or do they have to be immediately sent home?
That's one of the challenges with the Test to Stay program. We are hoping to have adequate testing capacity to facilitate that.
Okay.
Right now, we're not quite there yet.
Okay.
The other piece is that the department will not provide Test to Stay kits, and that the district will have to buy those. We go in that direction.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Pam?
I just have a couple other thoughts. So I'm very encouraged by the updated guidelines because I think it will definitely lead to less disruptions in the school, in the building, in the classroom, especially by reducing the isolation periods of positive cases. It will keep more students and staff in the building, which is our ultimate goal, and definitely help with the absenteeism rates, I think, that we're seeing in many of the buildings. I also think it's going to greatly alleviate the stress and the workload on our school nurses and our building admin who have been tasked to do all of this contact tracing and phone calling and so on and so forth. So hopefully that in turn will allow them to do more of their typical work and spend less time on COVID-related issues. I do think, though, that in order for these new protocols to be truly successful in mitigating the transmission in the building and keeping the students and staff healthy and in school and reducing that workload, is that we need to be vigilant in enforcing our mask policy. And I know I've spoken with you about this, Dr. Brown, as it's the one exemption on that list of exemptions that truly allows everybody to stay in the building unless you're positive. And having that strong enforced mask policy, I think, will also help to alleviate worry and concern of families who have medically vulnerable students, staff in the building, as long as they're being reassured that it's being enforced. Just in speaking and having conversations over winter break, I had some concerned parents, some concerned staff from EL and AMS that the enforcement of that policy had become a little lax. So I think that it's just reiterating the importance of the enforcement of the mask policy, will be important.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? All right, seeing none, thank you, everyone. All right, moving on. School committee chairperson's report. I'm going to report out the first item on my list is the school committee subcommittee assignments. So last night, January 4th, the newly inaugurated school committee met for a workshop, and the primary purposes were to meet with Maine school management to gain a deeper understanding of a school committee member's role. We reviewed parliamentary procedures. We held discussions around goals, and also to explain and discuss the various subcommittees of the school committee. All school committee members, as well as Dr. Brown, were in attendance. We met roughly until about 10 p.m., and we came away with definitely a deeper knowledge of board functions. So as chair, by policy BDE, it's my duty to appoint school committee members to subcommittees. I solicited interest, and I also definitely took into account prior appointments. So Dr. Brown, here for you is a hard copy of the appointments to be added to the minutes of today's meeting, but I will read them aloud. I have them for all of you as well. Let me hang on to one for myself. So this will be included into the minutes. Thank you. All right, to the Finance Subcommittee, I am appointing Jason, myself, and Brian. To the Policy Committee, Dan, Pat, and Pam A. So I've got two Pams now. So I had two Brians the last time. We've got two Pams this time. So Pam Albert is on policy. To the Health and Safety, Pam Albert and Pam Hart. Curriculum, Pat Gaudier, Clarissa, and Jason. To DEI, Clarissa and Pam Hart. Negotiations, Brian and myself. On the Audit Committee, Dan and Jason. On the Transportation Appeals, Dan, and the EL Building Committee is myself, Pam Hart, and Pat Gaudier. So those are my appointments for this school committee. Thank you all for your upcoming service on these committees. We have some contracts to negotiate. The Health and Safety Committee has a restructuring and I will not be able to quote, you probably will be able to quote the legislative, no, not this time?
Not this time.
Not this time, okay. So there is some big work coming up on a lot of these committees that we have going on. So thank you. Everyone is on 2, potentially 3 committees on there. So thank you very much for those willing to serve on all these committees. All right, also under my report is a report out on the December 20th budget meeting that we had with the Auburn City Council. We met, as Dr. Brown indicated, with the City Council during their workshop on December 20th and had the opportunity to deliver a budget message for the 22-23 school year, as well as report out on the accomplishments of the 21-22 school department budget. And I think what the administrators reported out tonight also helped to shine a light on the 21-22 school department budget. We informed the City Council of anticipated fixed cost increases, as well as we took a look at budgets from 2018 to show 0 increases from local contributions for 3 years and a 0.81% increase for this year. The City Council had an opportunity to ask questions, which there were very few, and I would like to thank Dr. Brown and her team and Business Manager Conrad for supporting us in that meeting that we had that evening. So those are my 2 pieces. Any questions or comments? Any questions on subcommittee appointments? All right. Thank you. Moving on, Mayor Levesque, City Council update.
Thank you. So we had, excuse me, we had our second meeting of the new term just this past Monday. A lot of housekeeping, just like our first meetings will be, and a couple big things I wanted to make sure the council, the school committee was aware of, is we are working very, very quickly, and what we did is formally pushed through a request to the planning board to start the work on the new zoning ordinances and amendments based upon the future land use agreement and a comprehensive plan. The reason I bring this up is we're doing this in priorities based upon potential new development from the inside of our city outward. This will affect every school department in Auburn, though, because the zones that we're first looking at stretch from Lake Auburn and Grace Lawn all the way down into New Auburn, and then past Minot Avenue. So it's a fairly large swath of Auburn. We're going to definitely need help on census count numbers. What's your enrollment? What's your capacity? What triggers additional capital expenditures, similar to what we discussed at our city council meeting, Dr. Brown. This is probably going to all go through with the goal of continuing what we've done for 4 years, which is encourage market rate home construction, market rate and attainable apartments, and owner-occupied duplexes and triplexes. Hence, mobility is really important here to keep mobility suppressed and down, as well as help break that generational poverty cycle that's out there, along with the school committee's help, by encouraging or realizing the quickest way out of generational poverty is home ownership. So once we accomplish that and everybody does their work together, I honestly think, though people laugh at me, but we'll see who gets a laugh, that we all collaboratively can end generational poverty in Auburn, as well as socioeconomic discrimination, which falls with DEI, which I'm very happy to be on, because that is a real issue in the city. And by looking at our zoning and ordinances, we can actually, frankly, solve that. So that's really the city council update. There'll be more to come, of course, in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you. Any questions for Mayor Levesque? All right, seeing none. Committee reports. I'm not sure where we just got appointments tonight, that there have been, I don't believe, any committees that have met. Those will start coming soon, though. All right, nothing under old business, nothing under new business. Upcoming meetings, I am going to make an adjustment. Last night, where we were able to accomplish what we had planned for 2 nights, we stayed until 10 and accomplished everything last night. So the January 18th, 6 p.m. Auburn School Committee retreat is canceled. We got that work done last night, so you can cross that one right off your list. Which brings us to a regular next school committee meeting of January 19th. We'll also have the quarterly evaluation of the superintendent, so expect there will be executive session for that. And then February 2nd is a regular meeting. All right, at this point, I'm going to call for any future agenda items or requests for information. All right, seeing none, can I entertain a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Brian. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Dan. All those in favor? Motion passes. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. 7:30.